Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from downtown Baton Rouge, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Working towards the weekend. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Always have Chris Blair on Thursdays. He's with us in 15 minutes. Brian Kelly Show coming at you tonight at 7 o'clock from TJ Ribs. You can go check that out or listen to it over on Eagle 98.1. And chat with Luke Johnson coming up in 30 minutes. Luke, covering the Saints, was at practice. We're going to have to move Luke's segment around a little bit this year. We've always had him at 1:30, but now Kellen Moore, who's a millennial, won't practice in the morning. He doesn't like to get up in the morning, so they practice in the afternoon, and Luke's got to be at practice at 1:15, so we have to bump him into the second hour permanently here. I'll talk to him about it later on this week, but we'll make it work. Always enjoy having Luke on. He's with us in 30 minutes. Let's talk Heisman. I don't know if y'all know this or not. Taylor, can you tell me who the favorite is to win the Heisman Trophy?
It's probably John Mateer.
He is co-favorites with one other player.
Is it Carson Beck?
Those are the two.
Look at me, Heisman guy.
That's very good. They're plus 800, which is pretty good odds. Usually at this point, you've got somebody who's already famous who Vegas is hedging against, and they've got you down pretty low in the 200-300 range. All the way up at plus 800, this thing is really wide open. And I think that the nature of these guys creates that. Carson Beck's a transfer. John Mateer is a transfer. Dante Moore is a transfer. He's third, tied with Gunnar Stockton and Jeremiah Smith, all at plus 1,300. And then you got Marcel Reed down at plus 1,400. The point of this is you can get some real good odds on the Heisman winner. And I think some of these are absolutely worth a play. Julian Sayin, I don't think is a great player at this point, but I think Ohio State's going to win a ton of games, and he's going to be in prime time a lot. And if all of a sudden you look up and Ohio State's undefeated again and Julian Sayin has thrown for 3,600 yards, and he probably will against a lot of the teams that aren't very good in the Big Ten, like, you don't get Ohio State's quarterback at plus 1,700 very often. And I think that absolutely is worth a look. I think that it's worth it to look at Marcel Reed because of the amount of winning that I think A&M could do against a very manageable schedule. Now that they've jumped over that Notre Dame road landmine, like, we'll see. They go to Tiger Stadium. That's a primetime game. They go to Austin, Texas. That's primetime. But they don't have Georgia on the schedule. They don't have Bama on the schedule. Florida comes to them here coming up in a couple of weeks. And he's a guy that's going to put up crazy stats because he runs a lot and he is throwing for a lot of yards right now in that Colin Klein offense. And so at plus 1,400, like, those are good odds to reel in. And I don't even think that it's beyond the pale to go with Carson Beck or John Mateer at plus 800. Mateer leads the country in total offense at this point. He's second to Taylor Green. Taylor Green leads in total offense. John Mateer second, but Taylor Green's got an abysmal defense, and John Mateer's got a good defense. And we talked in the last segment about that we think that Oklahoma's got a shot here. Look, Taylor said he had three teams he thought could win the SEC, and Oklahoma's one of them. Well, Mateer plus 800, like, that's not great odds, but it's pretty good for this time of year. And then I think Beck is going to throw for a bajillion yards. The ACC is not very good, and they've got bad defenses, and he's going to hum it all over the place. I mean, it's possible that Notre Dame is the best defense he'll play. And, like, he's looked pretty good. And if, by the way, you want to go back and look at this, I saw somebody do this back in the summer, kind of rolled my eyes at it because I didn't really care. But Carson Beck's numbers last year, pretty similar to Garrett Nussmeier's. Like, pretty similar.
Almost identical.
Yeah, and it was like, well, this Beck guy sucks. Get him out of there. He's going to go get his car stolen on South Beach. And Nussmeier's like Heisman favorite back in August. And now all of a sudden, you look at Carson Beck and, like, that would have been a pretty wise play. So if you're sprinkling some cash on this, Taylor, where are you looking on the Heisman board currently?
The same place I was in July when I had this discussion when I filled in for Hanny on Live at Lunch. It's Julian Saying. I think it has to be. You have the best player in the country that you're throwing the ball to. Carnell Tate's no slouch. You got a good running game. He already has a premier win in the eyes of the voters under his belt with the win against Texas. Then he's going to put up the numbers. You go on the road and beat Illinois, who's number 9. After that, Hunt, you have 2 ranked teams. You have number 2 Penn State. That's at home. And then you have Michigan last game of the year. So if you can finally beat Michigan, which is weird to say if you're an Ohio State fan, if you can finally beat Michigan, they're undefeated, maybe 1 loss in the thick of the playoffs. He's gonna have the numbers. Like I think the Julian Saying hype train is gonna get rolling.
But here's where I wonder about Julian Saying is, could Jeremiah Smith like come in and take that? Because he's already got the hype coming from last year. He hasn't had the best start to the season, but if he starts going crazy in a lot of these big games and his numbers, he's leading
he's got a Devontae Smith it.
Yeah,
it's got to be laughably huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that coming into the year. I don't think it now. Carnell Tate's been good. He almost has 300 yards receiving. They've only played 3 games. Again, they got a good running game as well. It all goes through Saying. He was 20-1 back in July. And then again, when I was on Live at Lunch, I was like, if you want the odds, just like you're talking about, this guy has all the weapons. He's going to play in big-time games. I think it's Julian Saying. He's completing 79% of his passes.
If you're going to bet Saying, you have to do it before they play Penn State.
You got to do it now.
Yeah, once they play Penn State, you lose all your leverage. Like, this is the point where if you're going to get some action on Heisman, like, you need to jump in. You've seen a little bit. You kind of have the cast of characters figured out. You got to go now before somebody does something on a huge stage. One of the names that interested me on this list that I was scrolling through, Beck, you interested in a little Diego Pavia for plus 5,000?
Hey, I mean, look, that's great odds.
$50 to win 2,500.
That's really good odds. I mean, I don't think that we will ever see a quarterback for Vanderbilt win the Heisman. But if anybody could do it, it's Diego Pavia. I mean,
he's playing some big boys. That's the point.
He is.
He's playing LSU. He's playing Bama. He's playing Texas.
Yes.
They don't even have to win all the games.
No.
He just has to be sensational. Like, he has to do some crazy stuff. It has to look in the vein that Manziel did. Manziel didn't win anything that year. They beat Bama on one stage, 10-2. Poof. He goes 9-3. They already crushed South Carolina. If he can get Vanderbilt to 9-3, which I don't think he will, but if he can,
it's very possible.
And Ohio State kind of limps, or you got an injury here.
You need some help, but there's a pathway for it.
I don't think the raw numbers are going to be there for Pavia. I think he would have to have great numbers and go 9-3 with the teams they play. Like, okay, everybody talks about how great Pavia was a year ago. He had his moments. He completed 59% of his passes, 20 touchdowns. He was good.
It's more fun than productive.
Yes.
For sure.
And that you need a weak year, which, like, Jaden had a weak year, and he had a 3-loss team, but he did some crazy things, and then everybody's tuned into the Florida game. It's like, whoa! Now the numbers were crazy in the Florida game, but it also looked really fun.
Well, I mean, you just brought it up. Manziel had a weak year. The 3 finalists were Johnny Manziel, Manti Te'o, and Colin Klein.
Yeah, I mean, Manti Te'o had like 7 interceptions or something.
And then Colin Klein was your third
Colin
guy.
Klein's like running forward. Yep. It's just plodding through the little apple. So, yeah, I mean, you got to kind of hope for that. But right now, it's not like you got a Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush type situation where you got a famous guy from August that's rolling up crazy numbers. That's not the situation you're in. Sometimes you get lucky and you have a down year. Sometimes you're Darren McFadden and you go nuts for 2 years and somebody just does a little bit more. So this is the point where you got to get down. I think if I had $100 to split in 2, I would probably throw it on Julian Saying plus 1,700. And I realize it's the favorite, but I would probably throw it on Carson Beck as well, because I just think that with that Miami offense in that league, it's just likely to me that he throws for pushing 4,000 yards. And that's, if he stays healthy and they leave him out there a little bit, and it feels like they're going to win a lot of games in a bad league, that is probably where I'd go with it. But there's some long shots that are interesting. Garrett Nussmeier, for those that are interested, plus 2,000. At this point, Garrett's numbers are way, way down. He's going to have to go bananas down the stretch and beat some really good teams, which is certainly possible. We've seen Garrett do that. But right now, if you're an LSU fan looking to get some cash down, you can get it on Garrett at plus 2,000. So $50 wins $1,000 for your Heisman vote. Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Let me tell you about them before we get to Chris Blair on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. It's just a different way to do beef. If you're disappointed in the pricing when you pick up your beef, if you're disappointed in the quality of the beef that you bring home and that you've got in the fridge, do things differently. Go to Sagrera Farms. You don't have to ask questions about whether or not they're improperly using antibiotics. They're not. You don't have to ask questions about whether or not there are steroids involved, because they're not right there on the farm. You don't have to ask questions of whether or not the beef is prime. What Sean does, his process, it's a 3-year journey for all these cows, produces consistent prime Angus beef. You don't have to ask when you bring that side or quarter cow home, whole cow home, how many DNA are in this package that I have? You do have to ask that question, generally speaking, when you buy beef, not at Sagrera Farms. You're going to get one DNA that you're bringing home. Steaks, ground beef, whatever you're looking for to cook at home, Sagrera Farms has some of the finest beef in America. Top 1% prime Angus beef at Sagrera Farms. Call Sean. I'm going to give you his number. Call him. Say, hey, I heard about your stuff on Hunt Show. I'd like to come to the farm and check it out. He is more than happy to walk you around. He's passionate about what he does, and his product is phenomenal. Give him a call at 225-COURSE, 719-1723. 719-1723. That's Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Here in Baton Rouge this Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, LSU and Southeastern, 6:45 kickoff, getting prepared for the weekend. Great way to start things off is the Brian Kelly Show, which comes your way tonight at 7 o'clock from TJ Ribs there on Acadian. You can listen to it here in Baton Rouge on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Chris Blair will be there with the head coach of the Tigers, joins us on Thursdays right here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how we doing?
Doing good, man. So far, so good. I mean, I've said it now for 2 weeks, but how about 3-0? Sounds pretty good.
Always good to beat the Gators. That was an impressive defensive effort. What was more impressive to you, the fact that they turned them over 5 times, or the fact that they essentially held them to 10 points?
You know, I think both are pretty impressive. I just think the fact that, you had so much pressure that, Lagway was, I don't know, I haven't gone through the entire film play-by-play with the ball in his hands, but again, the question marks coming into the game last week, at least from the Florida side, was if there's one thing that maybe has hurt DJ Lagway with the injuries prior to the season, is that his footwork has not been very good. We saw a lot of throws, even in the win over Long Island and the loss to South Florida, where there wasn't any pressure, but yet he didn't really look like he was setting his feet and stepping into the throws. It always seems like he's back foot throw or his hips are turned. And now you add LSU's pressure and you're forcing him to make those kind of throws. And then with the coverage that we've seen pretty much through 3 weeks of action for this secondary, I mean, I think you could pick either one of those. And based on what we haven't seen for a number of years, you got to be thrilled that, A, you're getting disruption at the point of attack, and you've got guys that can hold down on receivers down the field, and when the ball is put in the air, as Coach Kelly told us during the summer, they've got ball hawks. Well, they certainly proved it on Saturday because they forced him into some bad throws. Again, you got to go up and make the play, and LSU did 5 times.
Blake Baker had a lot of work to do when he got here in the spring of 2024. What do you make of the turnaround of this LSU unit from the time he got here to today?
I think it's what Coach has said, and I think Blake probably would agree that, at one time you were trying to find the fit for the philosophy you have and the way you want your defense to play. And, I've always had the sense that Coach Baker feels like the best way to disrupt these high-power offenses is to be the aggressor. I just don't know that we had enough people, to do that in his first year. Now, it is amazing. Kudos to him. You wanted to see some improvement. I mean, how much did we talk about at the end of last year? We got to see major improvement. I think all of us kind of thought, yeah, we'd love to see major improvement, but let's just see a little improvement. And again, through 3 weeks, we have seen light years. I mean, absolute light years from where you were a year ago and certainly 2 years ago. And again, I think it has everything to do with putting the priority and going to find guys with the skill set that allows you to basically, look, we got to work on fundamentals. We want to tackle real well. We want to have our spacing right, all the stuff that they always will work on. But when you are now going into a Saturday game hunt where you're saying, okay, this is where their strengths lie, this is what we have to do to throw them off schedule, and it's not about who do we rely on. It's basically looking at the room and saying, guys, this is your responsibility. Go do it. That is such a 180 from where they were a year ago or 2 years ago.
I've seen your spotting charts. You're quite prepared for these games. You got to have a lot of guys on that defense for the LSU team because they are rotating guys in at a remarkable level. What can you say about the depth that has been cultivated here? Because they've had some guys that have missed time in the Clemson and the Florida games, and they haven't missed a beat.
How many times, Hunt, have you seen a coach, any coach from any program, high school, college, pro, you name it, say in the summer, we're looking to add to our depth. We got to get depth. Then you get to about midway through the season and you'll hear, we just don't have the depth. When you hear a coach in the preseason say, my goodness, we've really got some great depth at this position, in this position, this position. I mean, that's not a groundbreaking statement, but what was displayed on last Saturday with the unfortunate, horrible decision, I know it's the rule, I know definition of the rule, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. There has to be another look taken at the targeting call and automatic disqualification. But you lose Witt early. West steps up in a big way. Then you lose him. You got Devon Hughes, who I thought at the end of last year may have been playing better than any linebacker outside of Witt that LSU had. He hasn't seen a ton of snaps, but he comes in and looks like all-world. Singleton comes in. He looks like all-world. And then, not because you wanted to, but because you had to use the third week's brother, and he holds his own for the limited snaps he had in that type of atmosphere. So when Coach Kelly tells us next time he really feels good about the depth that he has on his team, especially defensively, I say we believe him because that was fully on display Saturday, and that can do nothing but help this team, regardless of what comes their way on the defensive side of the ball, this Saturday, next Saturday, or for that matter, the rest of the season.
We talked to Garrett Nussmeier last week, and he mentioned the word frustrated twice, and I get that because they know that they can be better. They were better than this last year, but they just haven't quite found their groove. What do you think it's going to take to get that thing rolling?
Well, I think, again, getting him 100% is good, but, I still would argue that an 85% Garrett Nussmeier, with his experience, his development, just the intangibles that he has, I'll take it every day. But I do think, and I'm going to ask that tonight, on Coach Kelly's radio show, I want to know, how does that affect the real-time decision-making from the offensive coordinator to the head coach to the quarterback on, does it limit him at all or no? So if it doesn't limit him at all, then, again, I think there's got to be, just some better play. There hasn't been a ton of time for him to sit back there, go through his entire progressions, but at times there has been, and they haven't been able to connect. Do I think that receivers at some point have to find a way to get a little better separation? When I go back and watch the film and, he's extending the plays, looking for something downfield, for some reason, some teams are right now not respecting the run game, so they're going to leave 5 or 6 guys in coverage and say, okay, we're going to try to sit down on your receivers. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think you could throw in there that has everybody made the plays that were there to be made? No. Have some defenses at times this season, not in every game and not in every snap. Have they made things difficult? Yeah. The good news about it is that I think defense will keep you in every single game. And if you tell me the talent roster that's on this LSU team, because I've seen not only the guys who transferred in and the guys who returned actually do some amazing things offensively, I know they can do it. So, again, we'd love to have a fully formed offensive unit first week of the season. We'd love to have a fully formed defensive unit, special teams, no miscues at all the very first week, second week, third week. I know it's concerning, but I really think I'd rather be in this position with the offense, the ability to get better based on what we know that's on this roster than the other way around. Because at some point, you just can't improve. And I think that could be an argument that was made on the defensive side of the ball last year and the year before. It is what it is. Let's just hope we get better.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the sense Coach Kelly and the staff is taking. I think they understand we have a chance to get better. We know we can play better. Let's go get better.
It's good. Good weekend to get into a little bit of rhythm. I know you stand next to an old special teamer every Saturday. I sit next to one in BT. The punting was awesome on Saturday, and that was part of the reason that they were able to play such great defense and hold Florida down. What have you made of that addition with Grant Chadwick?
Again, I go back to what Coach Kelly told us this summer. Special teams has been wobbly, to say the very least, for a number of years at LSU, where you're not able to, A, flip the field, or B, get some of those hidden yards to set up your offense in better situations. And Coach Kelly kept saying, look, we got playmakers receiving kicks. We've seen that on display already. We think we have a punter who now, when called upon, can flip the field. And now that we know this defense is what it is, and you got a guy who can put it inside the 20, as well as Grant Chadwick has done, and suddenly now your defense is forcing offenses to go 90-plus yards, or for that matter, 85-plus yards. I like LSU's chances. So I go back to what Coach Kelly told us. He thought that this punting unit would be able to flip the field, and when you're averaging just under 51 yards a punt, and as you said, in a single game, pin them back inside the 24 times, that is a weapon. And again, if you're off, put it this way, Hunt, if I had to draw it up and say, all right, look, when they have the football, we want to stop them. I got a defense that can do that. When our offense gets bogged down and we got a bad field position, we need a guy to flip the field, because then we think in a possession or two, we're going to be starting the game at our own 45. And that's going to improve our chances offensively. And if you go back and look at the Louisiana Tech game, and again, I'm not saying Louisiana Tech is the world beater. It's not Ole Miss. It's not Alabama. It's not what's coming up on the schedule. What I will argue is that as that game went along, I think, don't quote me, starting position for LSU in the first half was somewhere around the 17, 16-yard line. In the second half, it was, I believe, their 42. That wins football games.
Yeah, no doubt they're doing a good job in terms of field position and have in all three games. So kickoff on Saturday, 6:45. Pregame show for us comes up at 4:45. I'm told you got me a pretty good guest coming up for one of the segments. Can you tell everybody about it?
Yeah, you're going to get to sit down and talk to, and I hope you do your research. I really do.
I'll try.
I hope you don't come off as not prepared. But two-time national champion head coach Jay Johnson going to join the show and talk about fall ball and roster transactions and what's going to be added to the team. Because you know as well as I do, because you've done this interview a couple of times, and this will be your second time coming off a national championship. You probably want to mention it a little bit. Because I got to tell you, I bet Jay goes, that was last year, that was 6 months ago, we've moved on. But it's going to be fun to have Jay on the show and kind of talk about where baseball is going and, frankly, where they're headed.
I may trim a few minutes off the SEC scoreboard, maybe a couple minutes off keys to the game so we can have Coach a little longer. I'm looking forward to that very much. You'll have Brian Kelly with you tonight on The Brian Kelly Show, 7 o'clock from TJ Ribbs. You can listen on Eagle 98.1. Thanks, Chris. We'll see you Saturday.
You got it, bud.
Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation with Jay Johnson on Saturday. I'm gonna pin him down and say, look, I know you don't want to talk about last year because that's not what coaches do, but it is September, so we can do that. I won't ask you about it in the middle of February, but in September we will, and then we'll get some thoughts on the way the guys look as they've returned are in school now, and they'll have fall baseball coming up in about 2-3 weeks out there at the box. So looking forward to talking to Coach Johnson on the pregame show. You can hear that on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Let's talk Saints. We'll come back with Luke Johnson next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. It is storm season, and it has been quiet, and that is very good. But you want to make sure that your property policy is where it needs to be when that storm rolls in. So it might be a good time right now, while there's not a storm in the Gulf, to check that out. Because I'll tell you this, once the storm gets in the Gulf, you can't make any changes. The insurance company's not going to work with you on that front because there's a storm brewing. So maybe this rest of the season is quiet. Maybe it's not. But you got to be prepared. So call the Highland Insurance Group and have them look over your policy. I bet you know what you pay for it. Do you know what your deductibles are? Do you know what co-insurance penalties you might incur if your building valuations are wrong? Do you know what you don't know? The answer is no. The Highland Insurance Group does. They've got experts that are here to audit your policy for free. They'll take a look, make sure it's with the right market, at the right price with the right coverage. Because the last thing you want to do is have a storm go through and then check your policy out and figure out you have paid good money for it and it's not responding properly. Jonathan Carver and his team are experts. They will work with you right here statewide in Louisiana. They're based out of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Saints headed to Seattle, take on the Seahawks. Black and gold off to an 0-2 start at home. Now they'll hit the road for a couple of weeks. Different corners of the country. They'll go to Seattle, come on back home, and they'll head to Buffalo next week. First things first, Saints and Seahawks. Let's talk about it with our guy Luke Johnson from NOLA.com and The Advocate with us on Thursdays. Luke, how we doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. So I contended that Spencer Rattler made some progress on Sunday. How'd you see it?
No, I agree. There was I think he tested the downfield throws a little bit more in this game. So his kind of average air yards per target, his average yards per completion kind of creep up a little bit after he had really low that first week. Obviously, he had the 3 touchdown passes. All 3 of them were either man beaters, getting the ball out of his hands pretty quickly. But a couple of those, like the one to Juwan Johnson in particular, was a vertical throw. So I'm encouraged. I think he's played really well. I'm going to be really, really, really interested to see if now they've got a couple weeks of game film to go on, going up against tough defenses the next 2 weeks, both on the road, see if that can continue. So if it does, I mean, they got something in them, right? And yeah, I think I said on your show before, a lot of people were kind of knocking the Saints for taking Tyler Shuck, and then he couldn't even beat out a 5th round guy in his second season who was pretty awful last year. And I think we're seeing right now that they have at least a legitimate NFL quarterback in Spencer Rattler. We're just going to see if he's a guy who can really, really claim this starting job going forward.
How much credit do you give Kellen Moore and to a degree Doug Nussmeier for this progression? I read earlier on ESPN.com that the Saints are playing faster than anybody in the NFL, and that may be helping Spencer Rattler because the defenses are simplified. When you look at how they're being coached, what do you see?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to go about it, right? Like I think last year's scheme with Clint Kubiak, who obviously we're going to see this weekend in Seattle. Yeah, I think there were some elements of that make life easier on quarterbacks, right? They put them on the move a lot of play action. But like in the same respect, they're kind of cutting the field in half and they're putting them in harm's way a lot by asking them to make a lot of those like deep vertical throws. We're seeing a lot less of that this year. Kellen obviously has a plan for these quarterbacks on his roster, and it's really just like, hey, take as many of the easy completions as you can get. If you see an opportunity to go hunt for a big play, do it. But for the most part, we're going to scheme some guys open for you, get the ball in their hands, let them go to work. So I think he has a big part in that. And honestly, I know people are criticizing Cesar Ruiz a lot online, which he has not played well in the first 2 games. They've had some stuff with Talifuaga, who's been kind of hit or miss as he's dealing with these injuries. But I think the line has generally played pretty well. He's only been sacked 4 times in 2 games. And I think when you're seeing him avoid the negative plays, the good stuff can shine.
Let's talk about the offensive front, specifically Fuaga. How concerned are you with the lingering injuries that are costing him practice time?
I mean, very concerned. As an old man, you and I both, back injuries are no joke, man. It makes it incredibly hard to do anything, and especially if you're trying to anchor your pass set against a freak 280-pound human being. I think that's really concerning for me. And you add up the knee injury that he dealt with last week. It was an inflamed tendon for him, which is not, it's not as bad as some structural stuff with the knee, but that's stuff you don't want to hear your first round pick offensive lineman is dealing with. Because that's stuff that feels like it can linger and really impact his play whenever he is ready to return to the field, which may not be this week. So Don't like it one bit. He's a really important player for him, and that's just not now. That's in the future too. Like, they need to make sure that they're doing whatever they can to make sure this is not like something that he's just going to be dealing with over the course of his career.
Luke Johnson's our guest, NOLA.com and The Advocate. You can follow him on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson. What concerns you most about this Seattle defense that they're going to see on Sunday?
Their front is really, really good. I was looking it up this week. They lead the NFL in total pressures. They lead the NFL in pressure rates, the percentage of dropbacks that result in the quarterback being pressured by the defense. And they're second to last in blitz rate. So that should tell you everything you need to know about this defense. They've got really, really good guys up front. They've invested a lot in it. Their first-round pick last year, Byron Murphy, is off to a really nice start. They made the trade for Leonard Williams, and he's been excellent for them. And then they've got DeMarcus Lawrence, who he's I think a shell of what he used to be, but when he's like your third or fourth pass rusher, it's pretty good. And they're two edge guys, Boye Mafe and I think it's Derek Lee. I'm kind of blanking on that. I mean, 10 pressures apiece in 2 games. Yeah. They're gonna get after the quarterback, and they do a good job stopping the run. They've got a defensive-minded head coach who built a nasty defense in Baltimore. He's on his way to doing that here in Seattle. So that to me is like the biggest concern going into this game. That front has really been eating it through 2 weeks against a couple pretty good teams in the 49ers and the Steelers. So the Saints will definitely have their hands full this weekend.
When you look at the Saints defense, is there a path to the field for some of these younger guys like Quincy Riley, like Danny Stutzman, who have not played at this point?
Riley, yes. I think there's a pretty clear path for him. They brought in Ike Yadam because they do not have very much experience in there, and he's somebody who, he's been around the league a lot. He's been in a lot of different systems. He's played under Brandon Staley in San Francisco. He's played some nice football at times, but we saw him last week really struggle against a guy like Ricky Pearsall, who is an up and coming player, but it's not like he's the best receiver they're going to face this year. So I think to me it just feels like a matter of time until Riley's in the starting lineup, unless they make a move for somebody like Asante Samuel, who's still out there, who they had contact with this summer. It just feels like they're just kind of waiting for him to be ready before they put him out there. So I don't think that's going to be this week, but I think it's coming. And then Stutzman, I really, really like Stutzman as a player, but it's just hard to see him taking reps over definitely not Demario Davis, but Pete Werner even. Pete's somebody they've invested in. He's not like a spectacular player, but he's a really solid player. He's just not going to kill you with mistakes, and I think that's probably something they need on this defense right now. So, but if one of those guys gets hurt, Stutzman's going to be the first one up. I don't think there's any question in my mind about that. And it feels like it's just a matter of time for him. Pete's missed a couple of games in his career with injuries. DeMario has been very healthy, but he missed a couple games last year. So I think that's going to be what brings him into the lineup, though.
I've realized this sounds like I'm asking a JV football reporter instead of a guy who's covering the NFL, but what is your expectation the next 2 weeks, these games in Seattle and Buffalo?
Yeah, they're pretty low. 2 very difficult places to play. I think Buffalo is clearly in a completely different tier than Seattle is when you're looking at just like who the powers are in the NFL. But I think Seattle is going to be a tough team for a lot of teams to face this year. Really good defense. I am a believer in Clint Kubiak, even if their offense hasn't really gotten on track yet. So I think the thing I really just want to see is can they maintain what they've shown the first 2 weeks, and that's being competitive against good teams. I'm not going to go into these games with any illusion that they're going to win. I think it'd be a really pleasant surprise if they did, and it's the NFL, so you can really truly never count anybody out on a given week. But they just need to show that they're still on the right track. That it's not like you lose 2 games and you're like, crap, we got to go to Seattle and Buffalo. It's 2 more losses automatically, and you start seeing the competitiveness kind of drain away, kind of like it did last year. after they got in a little bit of a rut and they were just like, well, this is toast. I don't want to see that. I want to see them continue to be competitive, because I think that's going to be what we ultimately judge Kellen Moore and Saints staff on by the end of the year. Nobody went into this season thinking they were going to be like a playoff team, but can they be somebody that gives playoff teams trouble? If they can do that, you feel really, really good about where they're going in the future.
You going to go watch them throw a fish at the market?
Hell no, man. No. Seattle's got A, great food scene, and B, it's going to be remarkable weather out there. I'm going to stay away from the fish, and I'm just going to go see like the real culture up there, and enjoy some sweater weather. Like, that's what I've just been dying for down here for the last 6 months or whatever it's been.
We'll have it by January. No sweat.
Yeah. I don't want to wait till January. I'm going to enjoy Seattle this week and Buffalo next week.
Safe travels, sir. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Luke Johnson, @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter. I went and watched him throw the fish when LSU played Washington in Seattle in 2009. I also ate brunch in the Space Needle. Might have been that I got a little buzz from the mimosas, but like Space Needle, the restaurant turns.
Yeah.
It's like the carousel bar at the Mont Leon. I got a little disoriented. I didn't like it.
Oh yeah, that's gonna happen, Hunt. When you've had a few cold pops.
I had a few. Just got a little disoriented. I was doing all the touristy stuff. Got a little disorienting, and then this is classic college kid stuff. I was in college at the time. We were looking for sushi, and this was Sunday after the game. We watched Ole Miss play, I think Memphis, because it was the first weekend, and they were playing on Sunday. And we watched at a sports bar, drank entirely too much. Then we're trying to go find sushi. And we ended up, I don't even know whose idea this was, in a strip mall at some all-you-can-eat sushi buffet.
Oh, no.
Which was a catastrophe.
That's a very bad decision.
It was bad. We ate way too much of it. It ruined the afternoon. Like, we had to go home and take a nap in the hotel because we had drank too much and then ate too much sushi. That's classic college kid stuff. Just, it's probably not hard to get on the internet and figure out where to go find some food in Seattle.
Probably
and
not.
We just botched it like college kids would do. But LSU won the game, so
that's what matters.
It was what mattered. It was very good. Also, an interesting happening from Seattle, which is I think a little bit more common now, but I don't think was that common in 2009 when we went. We checked into this hotel. We were at the Alumni Association, so it's kind of nice, and we couldn't turn the lights on or the TV on. Like, it's me and my junior, like my college buddy, and we're like pushing buttons, flipping switches, like nothing comes on. So we called the front desk, like, I think our power's out. Like, I don't know how this works. It's like, oh, no, you have to put your key in the slot by the door, and when you do that, all the power will come on. So that when you leave, you take your key with you, and everything powers down so you don't waste electricity.
See.
You would think Seattle probably ahead of Baton Rouge in that, in that way. So that was, we were like the Beverly Hillbillies coming to town when we couldn't turn the lights on in our hotel room. Stories from Seattle. You didn't know those were coming, did you? Well, they came. All right, finish it up with some Take It or Leave It next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms, premium Angus beef, top 1% of the beef in this country. It's right here, just outside Baton Rouge at Sagrera Farms. Whole sides, quarter cows. Sean's got you covered there at Sagrera Farms. Told you about the IMF scores. You're talking about north of 13, 14, 16, when the cutoff for prime is 9. It is some of the best beef in the country, and it is right here. So call Sean. Go by the farm. Get your hands on some of this premium Angus beef today. All right, reminder, our Football Friday schedules here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge start at 7 a.m. with Off the Bench. Old guys will be live from Rouse's tomorrow, Burbank and Lee. We'll be on from 7 to 10, I should say. Then 10 to 1 is an extended edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's. And they'll hand it off to me. I'll be right here from 1 to 3 for the Hunt Palmer Show. Matt will drive you home 3 to 6 on AFR. That's when Cade Wasson will take over at 6 o'clock for Louisiana Prep Preview. And then Catholic High and U-High. Pregame show at 6:45, kickoff at 7. Big game between two of the best programs in this city. And a reminder that we do have a new high school option over on our sister station, Talk 107.3, Ken Trahan's high school show, which has been running for decades. Got 5 hours of coverage, 6 to 11. All the high school scores you could want over there on Talk 107.3, 6 to 11 every single week. So if you're interested in the high school football scene, you're leaving a game tomorrow, heading to a game tomorrow, and you want to check out Cade on the way from 6 to 6:45, and then Ken Trahan up until 11 o'clock, you can do that over on Talk 107.3. All right, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Whatever you're doing, playing golf, tailgating, fishing, grilling, hanging by the pool, just enjoying a cold beer because it's time to have a cold beer. Flight by Yingling is perfect for these warm weather months we have in South Louisiana. 2.6 carbs, just 95 calories, all the flavor you're looking for in a cold beer. Flight by Yingling. If you're stocking up for the weekend or the tailgate, grab a pack of Flight by Yingling. It's the next generation of light beer.
All righty, first one here. Miami, University of Miami, the Hurricanes. They will be building statues of Vinny Testaverde and Gino Torretta, both quarterbacks that won the Heisman while in their time at the U, as they like to call it. A donor donated $1.81 million to the athletic department, and they're using most of that to build these statues. Statues of Vinny and Gino. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Kind of sounds like Jersey Shore names there. But yeah, like, I would rather, if I'm a Miami fan, I would rather give that money to the players than build statues. Yeah. But you got guys who won the Heisman Trophy. I forgot Vinny Testaverde won the Heisman. I know Gino Torretta did.
He did, actually. He was the first Heisman winner for Miami.
Yeah, great NFL quarterback, had a long career. But yeah, go ahead. They won the Heisman. That's good for them.
All right, last one real quick. This was interesting. I saw this on Twitter. Division III football school, Lycoming College in Pennsylvania. They have a freshman on their team, and he is 58 years old. Freshman defensive lineman Tom Sillo. He never went to college, played high school football for a little while, but worked for a city's streets and parks department for 33 years and decided he was going to go back. And he's on the team. Now he's suiting up for the Warriors, the Lycoming College. Kind of similar to that tuba player for LSU. I think it's 66 years old. But playing college football at 58, take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I don't think he's hurting anybody. It's D3.
Yeah.
He might get hurt.
He might get hurt. That's what I'm worried about, really.
Out there, get after it. That's good. I'm curious. I'm going to get otter locks from Jimmy for the website coming up, and you'll hear about them on Matt's show later. You got to have the Reds tonight, I would think. The Cubs clinched yesterday. They were spraying beers all over the locker room at like 3 p.m. Got to think that they might be a little hungover today.
Who's going for the Cubs, though? Who's pitching?
I don't know, but he's probably drunk yesterday.
Colin Ray is starting. Okay, yeah. And Hunter Green's going for the Reds.
Yeah, he does 100.
Yeah, so he's pretty good.
I would sprinkle the Reds. That's a gambling pick from me. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Got one more read to tell you about here on this Thursday. That's my friends at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find the entire inventory online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. You can do everything you want to do online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's explore the entire inventory. That includes photographs. That includes descriptions of the vehicle. That includes pricing, the whole deal. And if you want a test drive, you don't have to go to the dealership to do that either. They'll come to you to say, hey, I'd like to test drive the GV80. It's a great SUV, great for a young family. Go and buy it. They'll come to you. Valet test drive. If you like what you see, you don't have to go to the dealership at that point either. They got e-contracts. They've got digital delivery. We live in a delivery world. So if you like your test drive delivered, then you like your new vehicle delivered, they can do that for you at Genesis Baton Rouge. Of course, if you'd like to go to the dealership, they'd love to have you. They're on airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. But everything can be done online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge online. It's genesisofbatonrouge.com.